Okay, so now we made it to the next section where we're going to be going over diagnosing error messages. Now, let's recap. What is a syntax error? What is a runtime error? What is a logic error? Put your comments, your answers in the comments. Also, too, something I want you to go back and look up is, what does it mean for JavaScript to be an interpreted language? There's a couple of things that you should take in consideration of why JavaScript is an interpreted language. So put your answers in the comments so that we can discuss it. All right. So now let's get into the curriculum. Also, too, if you're finding this video based on whatever search that you were looking for, and you land on this page and you would like to follow along with us in the curriculum, the link will be in the description. Okay, let's get into it. Now, diagnosing error messages. Syntax and runtime errors always produce error messages. Reading and understanding error messages is a critical first step in fixing these types of bugs. Error messages are your friends. This idea can seem foreign to new programmers because an error message is a signal that your program is broken. When we are working with a broken program, we might feel frustrated, like we do not fully understand the concepts at hand. It's going to happen. It's normal for you to get frustrated. It's normal for you not to understand it all right now. But again, you got to keep applying it, and eventually it's going to make sense. Now, however, the reality is that all programmers, no matter how experienced, regularly make simple mistakes. If you run your program and it produces an error message, your first reaction should be, great, my program has an error, but I have a helpful message to help me fix it. Let's consider a small program with a couple of syntax errors. Now, let's look at this right here. I want you to examine this. Look closely. Think like the compiler. Go step by step by step by step, and take a moment to really examine this and see the error. Now, what we want to do is play around with this code and see what happens. While you can spot one or more errors just by looking at the code, let's examine the error message produced. Syntax errors. Running this program at this stage results in the message. Console.log, hello name. Hello name. What's wrong with this? It's letting you know where the error is. If you look closely and think like the compiler, you're going to see it. And it's telling you right here, this is the message we want to see. Invalid or unexpected token. What's invalid about it? Pay attention to it. I just highlighted it. While there is a lot of text in this message, the first few lines tell us everything we need to know. And it says the first portion identifies where in our code the error exists. We know it's inside that console.log. For many simple syntax errors, we will quickly be able to spot the mistake once JavaScript points out its location to us. It's going to let us know the location. That's very helpful. If knowing the location of the error isn't enough, the next line provides more information. It says syntax error, invalid or unexpected token. There we go. That's the next line. For many simple syntax errors, we will quickly be able to spot the mistake once JavaScript points out its location to us. If knowing the location of the error isn't enough, the next line provides more information. Syntax error, invalid token. The line identifies the actual issue that JavaScript found. It makes it clear that we are dealing with a syntax error, and it provides a message that describes the issue. If you are scratching your head at this message, invalid or unexpected token, don't worry. Programming languages often report errors in ways that are not always easy to decipher at first glance. However, a second look at the line in question helps us make sense of the message. So now we're understanding something here. It's missing something. JavaScript is telling us that in the area of hello name, it encountered an invalid token. Token is a fancy word that means a symbol. Remember that one of the 7 primitive data types are symbols. Here, what symbol is it missing? And says that the variable or other atomic elements of a program, in this case, the invalid token is hello name. JavaScript sees the double quoted character and expects a string. However, the string does not have a closing quote, making it invalid. Fixing this error gives us a program with correct syntax. So when we fix that by adding that quote, then it fixes that error. But note, error messages may differ depending on where you run your code. The same program run in an online code editor like Replit and Node.js on your computer would generate slightly different error messages. However, these differences are minor and generally unimportant. The main cause of the error would be reported in the same way. So make sure, like I was saying, to understand what it does. Remember the rules. Remember the principles. That's what's going to help you debug your programming and help you prevent writing bad code in the first place. It doesn't mean you're not going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I still make mistakes. But these messages help me remedy them very quickly. Now, syntax errors and code highlighting. Most code editors provide features known as syntax highlighting. Such editors highlight different types of tokens in different ways. For example, strings may be red while variables may be green. This is useful feature gives you a quick visual way to identify the syntax error. For example, here's a screenshot of a flawed code taken within Visual Studio Code. Notice that now every code editor is different, and you may even have your setup differently. It's about how you configure your VS Code to get the look that you're looking for. Notice that the string hello is color red. Most of the symbols, the assignment operator, the semicolon, the dot, and the parentheses are colored black. At the end of line 2, however, the final closing parenthesis and the semicolon are both red. It's trying to let you know that there's a run on. It didn't stop. It's still going. The compiler is still reading it, and it's not finding what it's looking for. That's what that means. So if you give it the correct syntax, the colors will match. Okay? Now, assume that the two symbols are part of the string. Since we expect the closing parentheses to be black in this editor, the difference in the color is a clue. It's giving you a clue that something is wrong with our syntax. But now, don't trust that. Understand the rules and the principle, because this, although is helpful, it may not answer the question that you're looking for, because the error may be something totally different than what you thought. So again, focus more on understanding what it does as opposed to just focus on memorizing the syntax. Runtime error. A runtime error. Having fixed the syntax error, we can now run the program again. Doing so displays yet another error, a reference error. Note the difference. The syntax error is going to run first. That's why the console.log is ran first before the name Julia did, because Julia is what it's telling us here is a reference error, saying Julia is not defined. So know the difference between what the errors are telling you. We have a new error message, this time involving line 1 of our code. We didn't see this error before because it is a runtime error. Due to the syntax error on line 2, the program stopped during the parsing phase. Remember, parsing phase. Even though the current error involves the line before the original syntax error, the syntax error still gets reported first. Once again, we are told where the error occurs. There appears to be an issue with the assignment statement. You might be able to see what it is, but let's inspect the error message anyway. Doing so will help us understand JavaScript error more generally. The message is reference Julia is not defined. The type of error is a reference error. If we search the web for a JS reference area, which you should do that, one of the first results is this documentation right here. Open it up, bookmark it once you've read it, because you may need to go back over it to refresh your memory. No need to read the entire document though. However, the first sentence on this page tells us what we need to know. You don't have to read the whole document like we said, but it is helpful if you do read the whole document, because you may find some information that's going to really help you understand the language on a deeper level. The reference error object represents the error when a variable that doesn't exist or hasn't yet been initialized in the current scope is referenced. This information, along with the rest of the message, Julia is not defined, makes it clear that JavaScript is complaining about. The error message is saying, hey, check your variables. To us, we see that we forgot to enclose the string Julia in quotes. Because we know that we intended to assign the variable name a string value. However, to JavaScript, there is nothing in the program to indicate that Julia should be a string. In fact, JavaScript sees Julia as a variable, since there is no such defined variable in our program. It returns a reference error. So another thing to take in consideration, a reference error is also letting you know that something isn't being used correctly. So think along those lines. Now, this is one of the many examples when we as humans describe the same error slightly different than JavaScript. Usually, neither description is better than the other. Human and computers simply view information differently. Okay, so we made it to the end of this particular section. We're going to go over the error types because it's not that long, so I'm going to include it in this video as well. So let's go to the error types. Error types. An error type is the classification that JavaScript uses to group errors based on their cause. This future lesson we will learn that an error type is actually something called a built-in object. You must know this. For now, understanding the different types of errors will help us become faster at debugging. We want you to spend some time with this. This is what we're saying. Each error that JavaScript reports has an error type. Remember, error type. And the type is included in the error message. For example, earlier reported the error type was a syntax error. Syntax error is an error type. You want to understand that. We have now seen two error types, reference error and syntax error. There are several other error types in JavaScript, such as type error and range error. You want to get familiar with these. The following table describes all JavaScript's error types. Some of these relate to coding concepts we have not covered yet, but we will include them here as a reference for future use. So here's the table right here. I highly recommend that you go through this table and you get familiar with it. Each time you encounter a new error type, take the time to understand what it is and what JavaScript is trying to tell you. Remember, error messages are your friends. Okay, so now we made it to the end of this particular section, and this is where I'm going to stop the video. But one of the things we want you to do is look at this table, learn these different error messages. Trust me, they will help you understand things better. Okay, so remember, the more you do, the more you improve. See you in the next section.